I spend too much time on my couch watching TV, eating snacks, and watching others on YouTube getting out there and having fun on their bikes. Now it's my turn to be that person. But how do I go from sitting on my comfy couch for hours at a time to sitting on an uncomfy bike saddle for hours at a time? I've given myself 3 weeks of preparation, but the question remains, will I survive my first 100-kilometre ride before I head off on my summer holidays? Will I do it? Will my legs fall off? And will I ever walk properly again? So let's get up off the sofa, go drag my bike out of the shed, and drag my middle-aged, unfit body out onto the roads and try to enjoy reaching a landmark distance of 100 kilometres for the first time in my life. So on Monday, despite a puncture, forgetting my water bottle, and using my bike for the first time in ages, I managed to get myself around a 30-kilometre road ride. And surprisingly, the next morning, I could still move, enough to get myself out of bed and make a strong coffee anyway. I was actually quite pleased with that. As I said, I'm not exactly starting on the couch as someone who's never cycled before, but I have spent too much time there recently, and I wasn't expecting it to go this easy. Apart from the time it took me to remember how to fix a puncture, seems to take longer than it used to, that's for sure. The average moving time of 22 kilometers per hour wasn't too bad either. So now I have my benchmark. I can cycle 30 kilometers on the flat with no wind if I have a break or two, or three, or four. The trouble is, there are only 21 more days until I want to change that to 100 kilometers. That's looking like about a month short of what I will need. Waking up the next morning, I wasn't too bad. I had a smile on my face, a 30-kilometre ride done on the first day, and a belief that getting back to the long rides and going up to 100 kilometres would be as easy as, well, riding a bike. But let's be clear, that's just how I felt. It wasn't true. How idiots like me go about a challenge like this is best explained with science and a graph. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a psychological phenomenon where people with low ability, me, tend to overestimate their skills, that I can cycle 100 kilometres. When I was sat on the couch, warm and comfortable, thinking I can do something I've never done before in as little as 3 weeks, I'm most definitely at the top of Mount Stupid, wearing the hat and a cycle top too tight to hold me in. I lack knowledge or skill in this particular area, but don't even realise my own incompetence. Kind of like the joke that if you can't spot the idiot in the room, chances are it's you. This first week can best be described as my journey from Mount Stupid to the Valley of Despair, the sudden dawning on me that I have a long way to go to achieve this challenge. This is the stage when it dawns on me there's a lot of miles to do, and currently I can only do just over a quarter of my target, with no time to get up to that level of fitness I will need. I'm deep in the Valley of Despair. The question now is, can I add enough competence and cycle fitness in 3 weeks to get up the slope of enlightenment and reach my target? So, how do you get competence and knowledge quick and easy these days? Obviously, you go to the internet and ask ChatGPT. So I did. And when the AI personality stopped laughing at me and realised I was serious, it spat out some sound knowledge to set me up for a crack at my challenge. And what was this sage advice that ChatGPT's infinite knowledge from the web gave me? You'll need to cycle a lot more rides to build up your stamina. In fact, it said it with a sarcastic voice. So I do what I do best. I put together a spreadsheet looking at my availability when I wouldn't be in a pub and created a series of rides to build up my distances. This gave me 22 rides in 21 days. Some rides count as two when I cycle to work and back in the same day. each ride being 22 kilometres, and I could always do some the long way round for fun. In the words of Hannibal from the A-Team, I love it when a plan comes together. So now that the idea had been set, the training begins. Cue Rocky clip. Ride 2 of this series was nothing exciting, but it did use my time wisely. A ride to work, 22 kilometres, first half downhill, second half uphill, with the majestic beauty of Phoenix Park in the middle. I'm not going to say too much about this ride. There's a vlog from a few months ago I did of my ride to work and why it's better than driving. Everything in that is still true, except my commitment to keep it up, unfortunately. It pretty much became a one-off, and I returned to my couch for a couple of months. Still, riding to work in the morning is a great way of getting a ride in to a busy day. I'd have been in the car for most of that time anyway, but instead I had another ride and 22 kilometres in the legs. Considering this was only my second ride and my legs were a little stiff after the Monday night ride, I'm quite happy with the stats. 22.7 kilometres in 1 hour 1 minute moving time and an average speed of 22 kilometres per hour. I'll take that. This is a challenge about distance, not speed after all, and it's my challenge, not necessarily the same for everyone else. Oh, so that's the ride done. Just over an hour's cycling time, but a lot slower because there was a lot of stop and starting at traffic lights. There was one point where I got stopped at every single set of lights. Every 200 metres, just ridiculous. Few swear words were used. Anyway, we're here now. Let's start work. What's a lot clearer though is it's harder to ride with a big backpack on your back. Ride 3 comes around very quickly on Wednesday evening of week 1. A busy day at work and plenty of liquids, and it's time to get back into my Lycra hugging gear once again. Making myself look better in Lycra is another day's problem. Either I need to do a lot more cycling and watch my diet for a consistent period, or go to Decathlon and buy some new oversized gear to mask the problem. But back to my ride home. And in the nature of pushing myself off the edge of Mount Stupid and seeing what happens, I decided to take the long route home. Doing a lap of the Phoenix Park in addition to my ride and adding 8 kilometres to the second ride of the day. And I bonked, big time. Coming through the park, it felt like I was cycling into a gale, and there wasn't even a breeze. And after a quick pit stop to refuel with a protein bar and isotonic drink, the batteries were recharged and the wheels were turning again, and the final kilometres uphill were done easy enough. I slept well that night, half of it on the couch. I say slept, passed out might have been a better description, and waking up Thursday morning, having fallen asleep in the Valley of Despair, wondering how I'd ever get up to the standards I needed in time, I actually woke up on the slope of enlightenment. Sure, I now knew I had a massive challenge in front of me, but yesterday, on day 3 of 22, I'd actually ridden 52 kilometres in one day. That's half the distance down already. Yes, I know, I can't take 8-hour coffee breaks on the ride, but hey, the challenge of this week is to do a 60 kilometre ride. And albeit extended and with a bonk, I pretty much have done it. What was clear already was that ChatGPT was right. I need a lot more miles in the legs before I can go anywhere near 100 kilometres for the first time. Ride 4 into work otherwise was pretty uneventful and enjoyable. Oh, done. Not too bad. Added 2 kilometres an hour to my average time. So that's now 23 instead of 21 when I did it yesterday. And the legs felt okay. They didn't feel like I could push hard, but they didn't feel like I was in trouble. I'll take that as improvement. By the time I was in Lycra to cycle home again for my ride 5, my body was starting to wonder what was going on. I'd gone from an easy life on the couch watching TV to panting and straining to push my overweight 55-year-old arse up hills twice a day. But in reality, once I got going and loosened out my legs by not pushing too hard, this ride was pretty uneventful too. Having done a few rides now, I was in a position to check out some of my data. On my rides to work, my average speed had gone from 22.0 kilometers an hour on the way in on the first day to 24.3 kilometers an hour home on the second ride. I'm not reading too much into it, but it does show improvement. And for my ride up the slope of enlightenment, that's building my data and confidence that if I keep to the plan, it might just be possible. Might. Friday was a rest day from cycling, the intent to let my legs loosen out, and I thought a short walk, about 7 kilometres, short-ish anyway, would help me. It didn't. I went to bed that night, hardly making it up the stairs, I was so stiff. A good night's sleep later, half of it again on my couch and half of it in my bed, obviously, I woke up Saturday and was ready to use the time I had to good effect, with 2 more rides over the weekend. The first on Saturday morning was to do the very first ride again, a week later, and see if I'd made any improvements, or have I overdone the training and in effect gone backwards. On the ride itself, it was clear that things had leaped forward. I did the 30 kilometres in a single stint without a break, unlike last time, and my moving time had gone from 1 hour 13 to 1 hour 9, knocking 4 minutes off the time and adding 1.3 kilometres per hour to my average speed. All good signs that I had made improvement. Again, thinking about how I'm slowly going up the slope of enlightenment, more good signs, more knowledge that I'm getting stronger, all of which suggests I'm on the right track. The only problem now is, did I give myself enough time? That's nearly 1 week down, and I still haven't done a ride longer than 30 kilometres. That's a long way off of 100 kilometres. A long way off. And before I knew it, week 1 is nearly over, and it's time to test myself again. Okay, let's go. Main ride for this week. And we're stepping it up. 60k to Maynooth and back. Time to step up the miles and go into my unknown territory again. To set out on the open road, my navigation telling me how to find my way home, but always wondering if my legs would actually get me there. After setting up the bike and putting off starting as long as possible, I head out and hit the road. My legs are a little leggy for the first couple of k, but soon enough I'm starting to pedal smoothly, hitting a rhythm and settling into my happy place, in lycra that is too tight and on a saddle that is too hard. The kilometres start to mount up and my confidence goes from low expectation to believing I could do this. And after a few more kilometres down the road, it goes back the other way. The rain looks like it's coming in, there's a wind, and although not steep, it's just one long constant struggle up a never-ending hill. Seeing other groups of cyclists going the other way, looking like they are floating, doesn't help. The wind behind them, the slope in their favour, and generally just being fitter and better cyclists than me. Halfway through, and it's time for a break. Coffee and a croissant located in a lovely cafe in Maynooth. Just over half of the ride done at 34 kilometres, and whilst I was feeling good, I had been making a few stops to add raincoat, find somewhere to eat, and do the obligatory filming for this vlog. Well, I'm a bit slower than I thought I was going to be. The average speed is okay, but it's the stop starting. So I think from here on in, we have to push it to get home quick. Up the pace a bit. So after a short refuel, I set off to do the second 28 kilometres with the confidence to knock them off quickly and get home as fast as I can. And that's pretty much how it went. I hit a bit of form, a rhythm. I felt good in the saddle, my legs just turning to a rhythm and the tarmac just disappearing behind me. Not so much footage of the second half as I just focused on the ride. And before I knew it, I was stopped at the lights in Lucan Village and had a moment to enjoy the amazing view of the weir, catching my breath. Which, as it turned out, was a good idea. My local knowledge being very helpful, I knew there was a very steep climb coming up from the Strawberry Beds into Blanchestown. What surprised me was that even after 50 kilometres, I got up it in one while riding, not stopping till I hit the flat roads at the top, so I didn't get squashed by the train. And from here, it turned out to be a quick and easy enough ride home. The legs stronger than I expected, and the feeling I could do a bit more as I walked through the door. So, how has week one gone? Not too bad at all. The main thing is, I'm on my bike again and enjoying it. Statistically, I've gone from one not sure if I could do a 30-kilometre ride to actually completing a 60-kilometre ride in a week. I've cycled a total of 198 kilometres, and my average speed at cruising pace is increasing. Physically, I'm feeling wiped out in a good way. I'm getting more sleep, often on my couch, which is definitely more healthy for me than watching TV and eating snacks on the couch. I'm going through daily patterns of my body aching a little until I ride, then loosening out and feeling good. So the miles are doing their job. All in all, a good week. I feel better, I'm active, and I have a shot at getting over my goal of 100 kilometres. I'll take that. But it is only week one. 2 more hard weeks to go will tell the real story. So, what has week one told me? Firstly, that I have 60 kilometres in my legs now, including hills, and that's a lot closer to 100 kilometres. The gap to 100 kilometres is a lot closer, but to be fair, the closer it gets, the harder it is to make improvements. So, what did ChatGPT say about the second week? Same as the first week, really. More rides, more miles, and more squeezing into lycra suits that I should only be seen in wearing in the dark. So, thanks for watching my first week and my steps closer to my target of getting from couch to 100 kilometres in 3 weeks. If you made it this far, that's about as much endurance as I need. Thanks for watching, and I'd appreciate if you could like, comment, and subscribe to help me grow the channel. And I'll see you in week two, next week, when I try and get myself up to an 80-kilometre ride at the end of it. 80 kilometres. What am I thinking?